In this question, I would like to ask Cynthia Flowers of the Black Star Community Department, what do you think a parent's role is in stopping violence? Ms. Flowers.
My goal as the president of the Black Star Community PTA is to share the message that parents have to be organized. Organization is the only way that we're going to see a collaborative effort to succeed against the evil that's happening. Just if I could quote one very wise man, all that is needed for this evil to continue to succeed is for good men to do nothing. So as parents, if we continue to allow this evil to occur, it will fester, it will grow, and it will be overwhelming to us. That was Albert Einstein who said that. As parents, the biggest thing that we have to do is create the networks to stand together. It's not enough to develop just a social system that just protects your own individual child. We have to think for the community, and we have to think globally. It's one thing to just protect our own individual children. It's another thing to work to protect the community, to restore some calm, some peace, where people can feel comfortable to come outside the home. For Black Star Community PTA, one thing that we do is organize around education, because we do believe that is one of the most key issues for turning the tide of violence. If you're in a school that's underperforming, it's not educating you, children feel hopeless, and those things continue to allow for people to search for solutions in the streets for their issues. The other major initiative is just to get parents and people out of their homes to stand together. The Deborah movement has been created to really empower women. It's based on a biblical prophetess, Deborah, who stood to stand in battles for the Lord when men did not necessarily step up. So at this point, working on our own individual homes is just not enough. We have to get a little more aggressive and reclaim our community, and the hood, the neighborhood has to be reestablished.
Thank you. I'd like to ask our panelists, how do you respond to that? Carmen, how would you respond to that from your perspective?
Well, as a court system, we've been responding by working with our community partners to engage parents to be more involved with their children. As probation officers, our role is to engage not just the child, but the whole family. So as we work collectively as probation officers with the family, we also engage community. And right now we're working intensively with our Chicago Public Schools to create an opportunity for every system holder to bring the parents in order for them to share with us what their needs are. We've started with certain schools that are welcome and is in order for us to bring the stakeholders that could impact that process and build a community around the parents who can help us with the children in that respective community.
Now I'd like to ask Chief Tinaskehoe, after an incident, what are the priorities of the police department? What happens after?
Well, after an incident, primarily if the offender is not in custody, that is one of the primary things that you want to accomplish, because if the offender is still at large, that puts the community at risk. So that is one thing that's paramount. But also what's of concern, especially when you're talking about homicides, and in particular homicides involving a juvenile victim, is that the impact that it has on their family is horrendous. And so one of the responses that's been put in place is a collaborative effort, not just with the police department, to talk with the family and see if they need other services, but also other city departments and agencies make contact with the family, such as, support services, family support services, especially if the child was a CPS student. Chicago Public Schools reaches out to the family, and in some cases has been known, again, to pay for funeral services and that. This is something that's horrendous, but also the community is involved. Many of the community organizations and members of the faith-based institutions also reach out to the family to see them through this time. So you have some things that are more traditional law enforcement responses, but I think you can see over time, we've come to realize that just that kind of response, just focusing on apprehending the offender, in and of itself is not enough to deal with the issues at hand. And so to that end, we've added those other strategies, but also collaborated with other agencies to respond appropriately.
Thank you. Reverend Harrell, community involvement, activating, talk a little bit about that, getting people.
Well, basically, what I agree with the parent that spoke, Ms. Flowers, that you really have to have a community involved, not only the preacher, not only mom, not only the programs in the school, but everyone has to get involved. I think we have to take more of a holistic approach as well as how we deal with the issues at hand. There's more issues besides just picking up a gun. Where did the gun come from? What is this child seeing in the home? I work with youth in the Cabrini Green area and from the Roseland area. The biggest problem is they should be allowed to be young people, teenagers. To have to worry about if you're gonna get shot, can you go to school to get an education? I mean, I feel for the parents which will come to me and say, Reverend, help us. You know, there are some parents that want the best for their children, that want to see their children do better than they did. The resources is not there. They don't have the education, the empowerment to do so. So it does take a whole collaboration of families, not just one parent concerned about their child, but concerned about the whole piece. How does this affect my community? Will this make your child safe, your baby safe, your high school student safe? Do we have the right programs in the right location to help everybody? Do we have the right programs to help the family? It's more than just preaching. It's more than just praying. I think we've got to take a proactive stance, and some of the churches have to come beyond the wall to reach the community on the level that they are.
Well, listen, right now I want to go to the podium and talk to Phyllis Duncan, who's the founder of Mothers of Murdered Sons. And if one of your kids were accused of committing a violent act, what would you do as a parent? How would you support your child? What, if anything, could you say to the family of the victim?
Good afternoon, everyone. By me being the mother of a murdered son, I have been fortunate to meet murderers. I have young men who have been incarcerated 13, 11, 12 years, who come to my organization just to let you know why and what has happened in their lives. Many of our young men do not think, they react. A lot of the murders that have happened in our community happens because young black males have to protect themselves. And when they are in communities where they are dealt with other gangs, you see, our community does not just have one gang, they have several gangs. And our children have to go from one part of the town to another to be safe. So a lot of times, they have to carry weapons to protect themselves. As a mother of a murdered son and being able to talk to other families, I find out, and I tell the mothers, first of all, we did not birth murderers. When we were pregnant with our children, we had no idea that they would become murderers. We did not see them as murderers, as babies, as young people growing up. But the environment that they lived in created the things that they are doing, the way they think, the way they act. So what I would tell them, first of all, is tell your child that you love them. Our children need to be told that they are loved, that we do care about them, and that whoever started this thing about, are you going to make it till you get 21? It's the curses that people put on our children just by saying things. So I think if anything that I would tell a victim, to tell your baby you love them. Tell them that the choices they made is their responsibility. That there is a consequence, and if the consequence is that you have to be incarcerated, that is the consequence. Some of our young people know exactly what they're doing. And another thing I want to say before leaving here is that parents, we are harboring murderers in our homes. It is not a stranger that is coming into our community killing our children. It is our next door neighbor, it is your grandson, it is your uncle, it is your brother, it is your best friend.